Ang pag-uusapan natin ngayon is about density and specific gravity. But before that, in order to understand this topic clearly, kailangan pag-aralan nyo muna yung measurements, units, and dimension in chemistry, physics, and engineering. Meron tayong free course about this. Sana panoorin nyo muna at sagutan yung mga workbooks doon bago tayo mag-proceed dito sa topic natin about density and specific gravity kasi meron tayong mga problems na sasagutan dito sa lecture natin na related dito sa topic na to, measurement, units, and dimensions. So, kailangan familiar na kayo sa mga measurements, units, and dimension para mas maintindihan natin tong lecture natin about density. But if you're already finished in taking that free course, then let us proceed with this lecture. Meron tayong na-encounter na trick question nung bata pa tayo. Tinatanong tayo kung ano daw ba ang mas mabigat, 1 kilong bato or 1 kilong bulak. Well, when we're young, ang nagiging sagot pa nga natin dito is yung bato dahil iniisip natin mas mabigat yung bato. But now we know that they are equal. Dahil ang pinag-uusapan natin dito ay yung weight nila or yung mass, which is pareho naman silang 1 kilogram. Pero saan ang galing yung idea natin na mas mabigat yung bato kaysa sa bulak? In fact, naiisip natin na any metal such as lead is heavier than wood. Dahil kapag kinuha natin yung kanilang weight, considering they have the same volume, nakikita natin na lead has greater mass than wood. So that means, para maging equal yung mass ng wood at ng lead, nangangailangan to ng mas maraming amount ng wood para mag-equal yung kanilang mass. So dito nakakita tayo ng relationship ng mass and volume. At itong relationship na to, ang tinatawag nating density. Density is defined as the mass of a substance occupying a unit volume. It is obtained by dividing the mass of an object by its volume. So it means, density is equal to mass over volume. So sa previous example natin, it is more correct to say that lead is denser or having more density than wood. There are two types of properties. We have what we call an extensive property and an intensive property. Yung extensive property, this is a property in which the magnitude depends on the amount of material. Example nito is yung mass and volume. As you can see, yung value ng mass ay nakadepende kung gaano karaming material ang present. Samantalang yung intensive property naman, this is the property in which the magnitude does not depend on the amount of material. Density is an intensive property because it is constant for a given substance at a given temperature and pressure. So ano ba yung unit of density? Density is expressed in grams per milliliter or grams per cubic centimeter in metric system. We know that 1 milliliter is equal to 1 cubic centimeter. Density can also be expressed in other units, such as grams per liter, or in SI system in kilogram per cubic meter. For example, ang density of water at 4 degrees Celsius is equal to 1 grams per milliliter. Well, dito mapapansin natin na meron tayong minention na temperature which is 4 degrees Celsius. This is the temperature in which this density of water is measured. Dahil nabanggit nga natin dito na ang density ng substance is constant for a given temperature and pressure. So, kapag nag-increase ka ng temperature, many materials or substances expands, in which the volume also increases. So, kapag nag-increase ang ating volume, therefore, magbabago ang ating density. So, the higher the volume, the lesser ang ating density. Here are some example of density of common substances. So, makikita natin dito yung density nila measured in different temperatures. Now, let me share a story about Archimedes and the Golden Crown, which happens around 265 BC. So, I don't know how accurate really this story is. Pero makikita nyo sa bottom part ng lecture na to, meron tayong shinare doon na PDF file. pwede nyo yung basahin about Archimedes and the Golden Crown. So sabi sa story na to, there is a king na gustong gumawa ng bagong crown made of gold. So ang ginawa niya, tinawag niya yung goldsmith para gumawa ng bagong crown sa kanya at binigyan niya to ng particular amount ng gold. So after few days, natapos na yung crown, binigyan niya to sa king. Pero nagduda yung king kung ginamit ba ng goldsmith lahat ng gold na binigay niya or gumamit ng mas murang type ng metal itong goldsmith at hinalo dun sa gold para gumawa ng crown. So that means gold pa rin ang itsura ng crown pero hindi na siya pure gold. He thinks na kinuha yun ng goldsmith para sa sarili niyang pakinabang. So ang ginawa niya is pinatawag niya si Archimedes. And then sinabi niya na pinagawa niya sa goldsmith yung crown at binigyan niya ng eksaktong amount ng gold na to. And then sinabi niya kay Archimedes na gusto niyang malaman kung ang crown na binigay sa kanya is made up of pure gold. Well, Archimedes is a famous mathematician and inventor in ancient Greece. So dahil alam ni Archimedes at ng king yung amount ng gold na ginamit nila, so pwede niyang timbangin yun, no? Yung crown versus dun sa amount of gold na binigay ng king. But it doesn't answer anything. Kailangan malaman niya kung ang volume ba ng crown ay mag-i-equal doon sa volume ng gold na ibinigay ng king sa kanya. So at that time, kailangan mag-isip ni Archimedes. Paano niya makukuha yung volume? So hindi niya pwedeng i-suggest na tunawin yung crown at gawing cubic na katulad nito para makuha yung volume. But it is also not easy to calculate the volume of a crown because of its complex shape and geometry. But Archimedes knows na bawat material, yung mga metal na may same volume, is showing different weight. So at this point, hindi pa alam ni Archimedes kung ano yung paraan na gagawin niya para matulungan yung king. Then one day, while Archimedes is taking a bath, napansin niya na pagsulong niya sa tubig, tumaas yung level ng tubig. And then he realized that it has something to do dun sa kinakailangan niyang gawin para matulungan yung king. And dito nanggaling yung famous word na ginagamit niya, yung eureka, which is a Greek word which means I found out or I discovered something. Then he went to the king and he explained na magkaiba yung level of water when you put the crown and when you put yung sample ng gold na meron yung hari. So with this, they realized na gumamit ng ibang type ng metal yung goldsmith. So right now, we can also use the same thing in calculating volume. For example, we want to measure the volume of a particular stone. We can put this in a graduated cylinder with definite amount of water. And then, makikita natin na pag nilagay na natin yung stone sa loob, there will be a rise in volume. And this increase in volume is the volume of the stone na hinahanap natin. Now, let us talk about specific gravity. The specific gravity of a substance is the ratio of the density of a substance to the density of another substance. So let's say you want to get the specific gravity of a given liquid or a solid, you have to divide its density to the density of water. Because in general, water at 4 degrees centigrade is taken as the standard, which is equal to 1 grams per milliliter or 1 grams per cubic centimeter. So since we are talking about ratio here between the density of a liquid or a solid against the density of water, if a substance has a specific gravity of 2, that substance has a density 2 times as great as the density of water. Now let me give you an example here. The specific gravity of benzene is 0.88 and you will see here an exponent showing 20 degree over 4 degree. This means na itong density of benzene na nakikita natin ngayon is measured at 20 degrees Celsius and it is divided by the density of water at 4 degrees Celsius. Now in case of gases, specific gravity is calculated by dividing the density of a given gas to the density of air. So again, we'll give you an example of the specific gravity of some substances. Okay, so this time, let us try to solve some sample problems. Before we proceed with sample problems, gusto muna namin ipakita sa inyo yung Greek alphabet na rho, yan ang gagamitin nating symbol to represent density. So, for example, ang formula natin to get density is mass over volume. So, we could write it this way. Density is equal to mass over volume. Then, let's say we want to get the density of water. So, we can write it this way. So, rho. Then, meron tayong subscript na water. So, density of water is equal to mass of water over volume of water. So, the same way, for example, gusto nating makuha yung density ng sulfuric acid. This is equal to mass of sulfuric acid over volume of sulfuric acid. Okay? So, yung mga calculation na gagawin natin ngayon, gagamitin natin yung rho to represent density. So, start na tayo sa problem number 1. Calculate the density in grams per milliliter of a piece of metal that has a mass of 12 grams and occupies a volume of 1.6 milliliter. So, meron tayong given dito. Mass of the piece of metal is equal to 12 grams. And the volume of the metal is equal to 1.6 milliliter. So, ang pinapahanap sa atin ay yung density ng metal in grams per milliliter. So, let us try to solve it. So, ang formula natin, density ng metal is equal to mass ng metal over yung volume ng metal. Okay, so substitute natin itong mga given natin. So, we have density of metal is equal to yung mass ng metal, which is 12 grams, and yung volume ng metal, which is 1.6 milliliter. So, we're just going to divide this, and makukuha natin yung density ng metal. So, we're going to use a calculator para mabilis. We have 12 grams divided by 1.6 milliliter is equal to 7.5 grams per milliliter. So, this is our final answer sa question. So, let's proceed to the second problem. A 100 milliliter of milk has a mass of 104 grams. What is the density of the milk? So, meron tayong given dito na volume of milk is equal to 100 milliliter and the mass of milk is equal to 104 grams. So, ang pinapahanap sa atin is yung density ng milk. Okay, so, solve natin siya. Ang formula ng density natin, density ng milk, is equal to the mass of milk over volume of milk. So, substitute natin yung mga given natin. Mass of milk, which is equal to 104 grams. And yung volume ng milk, which is 100 milliliter. So, from this, makukuha na natin yung density ng milk. So, gamit tayo ulit ng calculator. We have 104 divided by 100 is equal to 1.04 grams per milliliter. So, this is our final answer sa question na to. Now, let us go to the third problem. The density of the urine of a patient with a kidney malfunction is 1.001 grams per milliliter. What is the mass of 20 milliliter of urine? So, ang given natin ngayon dito, meron tayong density ng urine which is equal to 1.001 grams per milliliter. And then, given din yung volume ng urine, which is equal to 20 milliliter. And then, ang required natin is yung mass ng urine. So, solve natin. So, ang formula ng ating density is, density ng urine is equal to mass of urine over volume ng urine. So, in this case, ang required natin is itong mass ng urine. So, kailangan ma-isolate natin siya sa ating equation. So, to do that, we'll have to multiply both sides by the volume of urine. So, we have here density of urine times the volume of urine is equal to the mass of urine over volume of urine times the volume of urine. So, sa right side ng equation natin, makakancel yung volume ng urine. Therefore, na-isolate na natin yung mass ng urine. So, mass of urine is equal to the density of the urine times the volume of the urine. So, substitute na natin yung mga given natin. So, mass of urine is equal to density ng urine, which is 1.001 grams per milliliter times the volume of urine, which is 20 milliliter. So, in here, makukuha natin yung mass ng urine. So, para sa units natin, makakancel itong milliliter. Kaya, ang maiwan sa atin is itong gram. So, gamit tayo ngayon ng calculator. We have 1.001 times 20 is equal to 20.02 grams. So, this is our final answer sa question na to. Let's proceed to the next question. The density of ether, a volatile liquid, used as an anesthetic is 0.71 grams per milliliter. What volume would 250 grams of ether occupy? So, ang given natin dito is first yung density ng ether, which is equal to 0.71 grams per milliliter. And then, given yung mass ng ether, which is equal to 250 grams. And ang required natin is yung volume ng ether. So, let's try to solve it. So, ang formula natin, density ng ether is equal to mass ng ether over volume ng ether. So, in this case, ang required sa atin is to find yung volume ng ether na kailangan to occupy the 250 grams of ether. So, in order to do this, we are going to multiply both sides of the equation by the volume of ether and divide it sa density ng ether. First, we multiply both sides, the volume of ether times volume ng ether is equal to mass ng ether over volume ng ether times volume ng ether. So, sa right hand side ng ating equation, makakancel yung volume of ether. But that is what we are looking for. So, we need to isolate this sa ating left hand side ng equation. So, we'll have to divide both sides sa density ng ether. Okay? So, density ng ether times the volume of ether divided by the density of ether is equal to the mass of ether over the density of ether. Okay? So, sa left-hand side natin, maka-cancel out itong density of ether. So, matitira sa ating equation is yung volume ng ether is equal to the mass ether over the density of ether. Now, sa mga susunod nating mga problems, we will not be deriving these formulas. We will be using transposition sa mga equation natin. For example, density is equal to mass over volume. So, if we are looking for the mass, we will have to transpose ating volume sa left-hand side. So, we will have here density times volume is equal to mass. And in case we are looking for the volume, we will just transpose this volume to the left-hand side, and then we will transpose again this density sa right-hand side. So, what we'll have here is volume is equal to mass over the density. So, we'll be using this formula and this procedure sa mga succeeding problems natin para hindi na natin diniderive yung mga formulas. Now, proceed na ulit tayo dito sa ating problem. Substitute na natin yung mga given natin. So, volume of ether is equal to, yung mass ng ether natin is 250 grams over the density of ether, which is 0.71 grams per milliliter. So, let's check the units. Maka-cancel out yung grams. And what's left is yung unit of volume na milliliter. So, let's solve it using a calculator. We have 250 divided by 0.71 is equal to 352.11. So, yung volume ng ether is equal to 352.11 milliliter. So, this will be our final answer sa problem na to. Then, we'll move to the next sample problem. The density of the urine sample is 1.035 grams per milliliter. What is the specific gravity of the urine sample? Okay, so ang given natin dito is yung density ng urine sample, which is equal to 1.035 grams per milliliter. Ngayon, ang pinapahanap sa atin dito is yung specific gravity ng urine. So, let's solve it. As per sa lecture natin, yung specific gravity is equal to yung density ng given substance natin, which is density of urine, over the density of water, in which we are using 1 grams per milliliter. Okay, so substitute natin yung value, specific gravity ng urine is equal to yung density ng urine, which is 1.035 grams per milliliter, over the density of water, which is 1.0 grams per milliliter. So, maka-cancel out ang ating units. Therefore, ang ating specific gravity is equal to 1.035, because dividing it to 1 will be the same number. And specific gravity has no unit dahil magka-cancel out yung unit natin sa numerator and the denominator. So, this will be our final answer. Let's proceed to the next question. The specific gravity of an oil is 0.78. What is its density? Okay, so ang given natin dito, specific gravity ng oil, which is equal to 0.78. So, ang required natin, ano raw yung density ng oil? So, let's try to solve it. So, ang formula ng specific gravity natin is equal to density ng oil over density of water. So, ang hinahanap natin sa problem na to is yung density ng oil. So, doing the transposition na pinag-usapan natin kanina, we will have this formula. Density of oil is equal to specific gravity ng oil over water and multiply to the density of water. Okay? So, tinranspose lang natin itong density ng water papunta doon sa left-hand side ng equation natin. So, let's substitute now yung mga given natin. Density ng oil is equal to specific gravity, which is equal to 0.78 times density ng water, which is 1.0 grams per milliliter. So, finally, ang answer natin dito, density of oil is equal to 0.78 grams per milliliter. So, this is our final answer. Dito na tayo ngayon sa next problem. A salt solution has a volume of 300 ml and a mass of 350 grams. What is the specific gravity of the solution? So, ang given natin dito is yung volume ng salt solution, which is equal to 300 milliliter, and the mass of the salt solution, which is equal to 350 grams. Now, the question is, what is the specific gravity of the salt solution? So, let's try to solve it. So, ang formula ng specific gravity para sa ating salt solution is equal to the density of the salt solution over the density of water. So, alam natin na yung density ng water is 1.0 grams per milliliter. Pero, hindi pa natin alam kung ano yung value ng density ng ating salt solution. So, let us solve first yung density ng ating salt solution, which is equal to mass of the salt solution over the volume of the salt solution. Okay, so substitute natin yung mga values. So, yung mass ng salt solution, which is equal to 350 grams, over the volume of salt solution, which is 300 milliliter. So, let us divide. We have 350 grams divided by 300 milliliter, which is equal to 1.167. Okay? So, we have here density of the salt solution is equal to 1.167 grams per milliliter. Okay? So, kunin na natin yun yung specific gravity gamit itong nakuha nating equation kanina. So, specific gravity ng salt solution is equal to yung density ng salt, which is equal to 1.167 grams per milliliter over density of water, which is 1.0 grams per milliliter. So, maka-cancel out yung units natin sa numerator and the denominator. So, what we'll have here is the specific gravity of the salt solution is equal to 1.167. So, this is our final answer sa question na to. Well, I hope clear na to sa atin. We are now ready to solve the workbook. So, below this video, you will find a link leading doon sa workbook na kailangan ninyong sagutan. And then sa ating next video, ipapakita natin yung solution sa mga problems na to. At for the meantime, you have to try solving it on your own para ma-assess mo rin kung hanggang saan yung natutunan natin sa ating lecture.